You're watching Weekend at Gabe's, and I'm Weekend Gabe. This latest episode was brought to you by the good folks over at the Ghetto Flower. Use our code W@G for an exclusive 15% discount when visiting their site. Tell them I sent you. Now enjoy the show. All right, joining us now here as part of our Thursday Thunnies, we're going to keep the laughs going as well. She's a comedy writer and performance major over at Columbia College Chicago. Let's drop it one time. Shelby Steele joining us here on Weekend at Gabe's. Good evening. How are you?
I am great. I am so nervous. I've never done anything like this before on a stream.
Listen, it's
Well,
the first time
first,
for
Shelby,
everything.
happy belated birthday.
Thank you.
It was Shelby's birthday earlier this week.
Oh my gosh, I love the air
Birthday
horns.
all around. It's my dad's birthday today.
Well, happy birthday to your father.
There you go, Shelby and Dad. There you go. Happy birthday, Air Porter, a friend of the show who was on last month. Is also his birthday today. We give him a shout on Instagram.
Lots of birthdays, like between like the 19th, the 20th, and the 21st.
Yeah.
I don't know what is 9
Yeah.
months back from this week, but
Let's say my brother's birthday's in
some-
8 days.
Something about this week. There's a lot of people.
It's all good. April's a good time to have a birthday. At least the weather for your birthday is a lot more pleasant than in September or October.
Yeah.
So you lucky folks.
Yeah.
But Shelby, thanks for joining us. You are one of the hosts for the She, Hers, Hers podcast that you can hear
Yes.
over on WCRX. You're also the production director over at CRX, where I also got my feet wet years ago doing radio.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huge gaps. Yeah, I did not leave an imprint or shake the world during my time there, but I still got love. I did ask Matt Cunningham to submit a question. He did not submit one, but he did. He said he was very proud of you that you're joining us on the show.
Matt. He's a phenomenal person.
Absolutely. Let's talk about this. You're from Texas, and you land here in Chicago. Talk about that journey, because visiting and scanning through your Instagram, you were doing plays and stage. What drew you to the school, and how did that help decide that was what you wanted to do?
So in high school, ever since my freshman year, I was a part of the improv troupe that we had at the high school, and I had a friend there. His name was Chance Bryant, and so his senior year, he graduated, came to Columbia, and he was like, "Oh my gosh, there's this really cool comedy degree." And at the time, I was looking through schools, and originally I was like, "Oh, I really like musical theater," but I was like, I don't really like vibe with that too hard. I loved acting, so I wanted to try that out as well. But whenever I heard about that comedy degree, I was like, "Oh my gosh, I want to go after it." So I give my full credit to my awesome friend Chance Bryant. He's hilarious. He's awesome. And so whenever I visited, like whenever I got admitted, I came for Admitted Students Day, came for orientation, fell in love with the college, fell in love with Chicago. Like Second City is incredible, and like my freshman year, I went over and explored like all the comedy clubs. Of course, COVID happened, but my freshman year, that's also when I touched into like radio and voiceover. So it's just been like, it's a match made in heaven, truly.
Right. Exactly. And you were, and I was listening on the recent episode that you were kind of harassing Matt to get into the radio component of it. Like what about that kind of drew you in? Because when I was there years ago, like you had to be a radio major to land any airtime. So being that things are kind of changed and moved around a little bit, what sort of brought you in or caught your attention about the audio format?
Originally, I was a radio minor my freshman year, and so my sophomore year, I took his podcasting class because it was a part of the required minor. Once I took the podcasting class, oh my gosh, I was like, I really enjoy the production aspect, and I love interviewing people. And then that was in the fall semester. I ended up changing my minor to voiceover, but I was just like, oh, I want to work in radio so bad. And that's where I met Carrie, and oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's his voiceover class. So phenomenal. But at the end of that spring semester, I was just like hounding Matt. I was like, do you have internships? Because one, if I had an internship, I could stay in Chicago over the summer. And two, like, just the production stuff was so fun. And originally I was going for the social media internship for the radio station, but he was like, we already have somebody, but we need production interns. And I was like, Sure. I mean, I loved production for the podcasting class, and I just kept emailing him. I felt so bad, but I was like, when are applications gonna go up? Blah 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 blah.
Sure.
So yeah, it was that podcasting class that really like got me into it.
Got it.
Yeah, so how specifically did this podcast come about? Like was it you? Was it like did you pitch it? Because it's really interesting because, you know, I'm sitting in my radio classes and my voiceover classes and it doesn't feel like it's a male dominated class setting, but when you look at the actual radio station and like the world, it's very much a male dominated thing. So how did you decide to like kind of bring this to light?
So the program director there, her name's Asha Davis, and she's a graduate student. She kind of came in, and we were talking, and we like to do programming based on like the specific month that it is. And so Women's History Month was coming up, and we were just thinking like, oh, we'd really want to like have something on air, a consistent show that like represents women and talks about female creatives because it's something we're both interested in. And so it was very like spur of the moment, like let's make a podcast about it. Why not? It was such a sporadic like spark of creativity, and so we took that and immediately we were like, let's find guests, let's get this done. So it all came from we need to have programming for Women's History Month.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's, I mean, I definitely, and like I feel like the staff is pretty well balanced as well. And so it's like you're looking at the classrooms and you're looking at like the professors, like a majority of the voiceover professors are women actually. And it's like, why is there this gap in like the real world industry compared to like in the class setting? And like, personally for me, I'm like, how do I, as like a person who's about to graduate, how do I break into that, and how do we like break down these barriers and get in?
Oh yeah, I think it's definitely a generational thing as well. I feel our generation and like millennials, we're starting to push those barriers and get our feet into like the professional world, into the professional industry. Obviously like these professors and like having a good diversity of people like within the professorial world, I don't know what you'd call it, here at Columbia it's very inspiring. So I think creating your own things, working with other creatives that you meet at Columbia is definitely something that I'm utilizing. So like whenever you start going into the world, like reach back to like your old peers, your friends from college, and utilizing each other's creativity, I think in producing our own work is a big way to get into that professional world. But I think what you're saying about the fact that it's very male dominated right now, I think that's about to change with our generation graduating college and getting into the professional world. So I think we're about to change this guy.
Yeah. I agree. Fingers crossed. I mean,
I mean, I think that, you know, with more platforms that are populating like Twitch, there's opportunities to create your own platform. And I think that women, and especially women of color and people of color, are definitely taking advantage of that and not waiting for the limited opportunities that are in radio. If you ever try to get a radio job, good luck. You probably have a better chance of getting in the NBA. But in reality, but I think that, you know, with what you're doing with the podcast and the creativity that you guys are stirring up, sort of at this ground level, in 2-3 years, you guys will already have cemented something to then build upon that to create a show of this stature or something even bigger. I agree 1,000% that, you know, the way that we look at hosts, and it's even happening now. If you know, my timeline is filled with tons of women who are in media and sports and all these places that for years, it took years for, you know, women to be prominent faces and voices to break through. And now it's like, definitely, to Karena's point, those walls are crumbling down and that perception and bias is slowly starting to disappear. But it's still a lot of work to be done. I applaud you guys for doing the good work. Let me talk a little bit about this, because you also study comedy writing. You're talking about Second City, and we just asked Ben this sort of a similar question I want to ask. But like, what is it about, like, what sparks a chuckle from you, or what generates a laugh when you're writing? Like, is it a personal experience or just sort of a animated thought of something that would never happen, and you're like, this would be great if it did?
I love a comedic character, a very specific character in really funny scenarios, very kind of like fish out of water things.
Sure.
One of the things that makes me laugh the most is there's a scene from the animated film Hercules,
Hmm.
where there's like pain and panic get introduced, and it's just Hades turning around and yelling, "What?" and then them going, "We are worms, worthless worms." I think specific and extremely odd is it gets me like rolling over laughing.
Yeah.
Very niche
I love
comedy.
I love that that's like I did not know that piece of Shelby lore, and I don't know if you remember,
Shelby
but
lore.
yeah, in my audio drama that I wrote and directed that you were in, that's what the inspiration for those two characters
Really?
were. Yeah, is what I was literally, that's like what the inspiration for, and like my idea between like those two characters. And so like the fact that because I had you in the back of my mind when I was like going through casting for this and stuff, and I was
Wait,
like,
as
you know,
Ard?
this is perfect. Yeah, and so like isn't it I just feel like that's such a great full circle. I had no idea that that was like such a core memory for you. And
Oh no, yeah.
and you basically were that.
Except in a
That's
funny little
awesome. I love
accent.
that. And yeah, I've watched you in our voiceover classes, especially like Brad's class. Yeah, your approach to characters, you definitely go for like the more funny characters, and I feel like we have a lot of like similar, like we do the southern thing, both being southern gals, and the silly like kid voices.
Yep.
So like how specific, because I don't have as much as like, I think I'm funny as hell, but like I don't have like the technical comedy background that like you do.
Right.
So like how much of that comedy background like influences creating your voices and stuff, and like how much of that is being used in the development?
Oh, I use it every single day. Any comedic piece that I'm using, I'm utilizing something that I've learned either in college or even back in high school. A lot of it comes from a big thing I appreciate about the major is you are consistently pumping out work. I think if you want to be a creative, there is nothing more important than consistently creating, whether it is garbage or good. Like a big thing I learned in one of my first comedy classes is you're going to produce 10 jokes, one of them is going to be decent. And then like you have to consistently put out work. But when it goes into like the voiceover world, I will take like there's something called clash of context in comedy. So it's there's that, and then also like fish out of water. So for voiceover, it's fun to create like a snobby character, like this snobby like maybe this little snobby little rabbit, but he'll run like a lollipop cartel in his school or whatever. It's fun to like create those voices and put them in funny situations. So everything that I've learned, whatever work I'm doing, whether it's conscious or not conscious, something that I've learned is being portrayed through my work. Definitely.
Yeah. How has your previous experience on stage? You've done some theater, and we're Karen and I, when we were doing our research during the pre-production meeting, we noticed that you played the nurse in Romeo and Juliet, and she was like,
Yes.
"That's so Shelby."
Oh yeah.
What about that experience, or why does that make sense for Karana that you played the nurse?
Oh, my favorite line in that show is "Thou hast sucked wisdom from thy teat," and I
Mm-hmm.
oh my gosh,
Mm-hmm.
it was that's honestly one of the like my favorite characters that I've ever played because it makes sense because in Shakespeare stuff specifically, a lot of the comedy, if you look at it surface level, you're like, I don't know what the heck is going on. But whenever you look into it, you're like, this is hilarious. And I feel like that can be me sometimes. At first glance, you're like, I don't understand how that's funny. But then I feel like as people get to know me, they think I'm funny. Is that right, Carrie?
Yeah. 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 I mean, I feel like we all like, you know, we kind of formed this like little cohort
yeah.
in Deb's class, and I think it's because we enjoyed each other's energy and like creative process so much, and we just like it's honestly so much fun because there's like this level of respect, but it's also like I talk about this with Cody a lot because we're still in classes together, and like I love going back and like seeing our little group's progress, like the where
Yeah.
we were day one of Deb's class and like now is just absolutely insane. And I love watching y'all and like paying attention to what you guys are doing, even as we're like not in classes together anymore. Like it's just so much fun to see like the insane level of like caliber that we're at. And it's all because we all just like vibed and like thought each other was hilarious. I mean, I would hope you think that I'm funny, but
I think you're absolutely hilarious, Karina.
Karen is amazingly funny.
Yes.
All right, we got a few more minutes when we get out of here. We always have a bunch of fun questions. You say you're the best at cooking up banana bread.
Yes.
That's your go-to.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
It's family recipe. Family recipe.
Got it.
That thing has been in my life since before I was born. It's been there. So
I'm just gonna put your banana bread in what the same box I put Arby's in. That I never heard anyone say, "Damn, I could really go for some banana bread." Hence Arby's as well. So I'm gonna put those together in their same company. That little box is gonna be your banana bread.
Just you wait.
I am down.
Speaking of food,
Yeah.
what being from the South, what Southern food do you miss?
Ribs and crawfish.
in
the
city?
Wait, are you saying that Chicago don't got ribs? You say you don't rock with our Chicago ribs? What?
They are not good ribs.
Wow.
That's what I saw Ben's question about what he'd be canceled for. That's what I'd be canceled for, is for hating Northern ribs.
All right, we had to.
It's something about that Southern barbecue, and you had like I think you had like somewhere on your website you mentioned like Southern barbecue, and I'm like yeah.
But crawfish is my favorite. I definitely miss that the most.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you kind of stole my question. I was gonna say like Chicago barbecue or Texas barbecue.
Texas barbecue, hands down, not even a question.
As someone who has not experienced Texas barbecue, what is some of the signature flavors that just make it different?
I mean, I do love a ketchup-based barbecue sauce. I think it's smooth, it's rich, it's a little bit of sweetness. You can get a little bit of spicy and savory, and in the words of KFC, it is finger licking good. What more can I say?
I've been to Texas before. I don't know if I got the barbecue while I was there though. I can't remember.
You got to go back.
I went to a gumbo restaurant that was super fire. When I was in Dallas. And they had this wonderful Southern restaurant that I went to. Otherwise, it was just conference food. So
Dallas is very conference based. No, I'm down in Houston area.
Got it. All right. Shelby, thank you so much for joining us. You can catch her on the podcast and the internets with the she, her, hers over on WCRX. You can head over there and catch the new pod. Season 2 just went up, right?
Yep, we just started season 2. It's crazy. We're continuing it on. And then can I also plug another podcast that I'm going to work on soon?
Go in.
Yep, looking forward to in June for Pride Month. I will be co-hosting. It's kind of like an off-put of She, Her, Hers, where we're going to be nice. Where we're going to be interviewing queer and just queer creatives, and I'm so excited to start that podcast. It's going to be really, really cool. So
I can't wait.
That.
Hit me up.
Yes.
All right, wonderful. Shelby, we'd like to hear more from you in the near future. Please feel free to come by whenever you're ready to. We would love to have you back. Shelby still joining us here on Weekend at Gabe's tonight as part of our Thursday Thunnies. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you so much for having
me. Watching the latest episode of Weekend at Gabe's on YouTube, brought to you by the Ghetto Flower. Make sure to also click on the links in the description for more information to our guests and access to exclusive new music from the Ghetto Flower and so much more. Make sure to also like and subscribe to the show, and also continue to share, support, and show love by clicking on any of the links surrounding my head. Thanks for watching.